This week on Arizona Illustrated, the inspiring story of the Blind Bandit.
As soon as I got on a horse, I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, this is why I'm still here.
Escape the hustle and bustle of city life at Rose Canyon Lake.
A nice, easy drive from Tucson to just come up, cool off, and enjoy.
The process and paintings of Tucson master Jim Waid.
My father's paintings make me feel closer to nature, because even though they're not exact representations, he's using how nature's put together constantly.
And a primer on an insect that's been on Earth for 300 million years.
Realized how spectacular these insects are.
Hello, and welcome to another all-new episode of Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara, and this here is my buddy Trooper. Now, we're over on the east side, and Trooper lives here at the Heart of the Horse Ranch, which is a very special and beautiful place. This place is dedicated to providing a, quote, unique form of equine-facilitated psychotherapy with an emphasis on compassion and trust. Next, we'll introduce you to the Blind Bandit who trained here. His name is Angel Garcia Nunez, and he lost his sight in a suicide attempt. Then Angel used horses to help find peace and purpose. He realized he loved the rodeo, and he wanted to become the first ever blind professional saddle bronc rider. This story contains discussion of suicide that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
My name's Angel Garcia Nunez. I'm 100% blind, but I'm trying to be the first PRCA Saddle Bronc Rider. I grew up here in Tucson, Arizona. Didn't have a real stable household growing up. It's always just been me and my mom, never met my dad. So my mom was always kind of just bouncing around. The first time I got on the horse, I was with my mom, just like sitting on her lap.
I began riding horses when I was 8. I lived on the reservation. My grandpa put me on one of his horses bareback and taught me how to ride. And for the next 2 years, I, went out and went hunting with my uncles and killed whatever we did and tied them onto the back of the saddle, and that's how I rode.
Hey, he's coming up to you. Little buddy.
I am nervous and worried, but I am praying for Angel because I know he's following his heart and dream, and so that's important. And I love him and I'll support him.
Come on, Peanut. What's up, buddy? You ready to have some fun?
So how was your
Went to high school, graduated in 2015. I had this buddy, he was one of my best friends, and he freaking, I guess he was just ready to check out, and he climbed up a crane, and on his way up he slipped because it was raining, and he died. But yeah, he was going up there to jump off the crane and to commit suicide. It really just like ripped me apart. I went a while kind of just hiding everything and faking like everything was okay. I started having these dreams, and I would follow him outside. He would point and I would look, and there would just be bodies of like people that I knew, and they would just they'd just be dead, just laying there. And I'd be like shaken up, and I'd look back for him and he'd be gone. And so like I had dreams like that, and more gnarly ones too. But May 5th comes and I get up, it's like any other day, go to work. The second I got in my truck to drive home, I wasn't feeling myself, and so I started drinking just like every other day. I ended up blacking out. I FaceTime, she was my ex, but we were still kind of like, you know, talking like we still had a relationship. I was like bawling my eyes out and just telling her like I'm sick of feeling this way, like I don't want to do this no more. And I was playing with the gun. I guess I put the gun in my head and I pulled the trigger, and then she heard the gun go off. Yeah, it was kind of just nothing after that for about 4 weeks. And I remember, dude, I was like in heaven, like I could see the gates. And I remember them opening, and he pointed, like something pointed at me and said, go back. And I remember like, I like turned my head, and then that's when I like, and started like trying to rip out the IVs and stuff. There's two choices you got. You're either gonna accept this for what it is and grow from it, or you could use this as an excuse to be nothing and get more depressed all over again. And so as soon as they told me like, yeah, you're blind, I was like, all right, like might as well just start adjusting to this life that I gotta live. So I came out of the hospital. I had days where I was like, am I gonna be anything in my life? Like what am I gonna do? And so my friend Allie, she got in contact with my mom, and she just kind of told her like, when Angel's ready, I would like him to come over to the horses, because I feel like it would be super beneficial and therapeutic for him. And so my mom ran the idea by me, and I was like, heck yeah, like get me out there, shoot, like let's go. Even just like the smallest things of just brushing the horse, you know, just help me gain confidence in like my hand-eye coordination of getting back into, you know, doing things regularly, and like knowing, yeah, I can still do this even though I can't see. With, say, a person with sight, you can see when a horse is starting to act weird just by just looking at him, like you'll know. But for me, I gotta really feel that horse and get in tune with that horse and connect with it. My progress just, it just blossomed, man. Like I went from not knowing what I was gonna do to, as soon as I got on a horse, I was like this is what I'm gonna do. Like this is why I'm still here. You ready? Yeah. It was just like all over from when I was little. It was just like, I'm on the horse, like I know this feeling. I can't see, but I gotta trust this horse that it's gonna take care of me. Get it, Peanut. Get it, Peanut. Get it, Peanut. Whoa. Yeah, I can ride a horse. I can ride anything. Run it under me, I'll saddle it. Heck yeah. He got that one.
Yeah, he did. He's feeling it. He's feeling it.
I've always loved the rodeo. My mom always used to take me to it. I wanted to be the first blind PRCA Saddle Bronc Rider, and my goal was to get to a school, and did that. Like, I'm gonna drive 15 hours just to learn.
Name?
Angel Nunes.
Okay, let me get your receipt.
I'm gonna apply for my PRCA permit. When I get my permit, I'll be in a circuit, which is Arizona and New Mexico. So once you have a certain amount of points, that qualifies you for like the big rodeos.
There you go, now rub it on your swell.
I got a very strong support system. You know, they all want to help me out with whatever it is, anytime, even if it's just talking to them, saying I had a bad day. It's time to prove everyone that's been doubting me that I can freaking do this. This is what it's like to be on the back of the chutes. Like, this is something I've always dreamed of doing. And as soon as I heard that latch crack, I was like, oh boys, we're about to make history. No one's perfect. No one's ever gonna be perfect. We all got issues, and don't feel like you're weak for asking for help, because you're not. And that's one thing I wish I would have done more is, you know, reached out and talked about how I really felt and what I was going through, because I feel like it probably would have helped me. There's been a lot of people that I've came across that are telling me like, oh, you're crazy, why are you doing that? Like that's not a good idea. And I'm like, it helps me. Like, these horses saved my life. It was like the best feeling I've ever felt. This is just the beginning.
If you or someone you know is in crisis, call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. If you're feeling stressed, you need to take a little break from reality, you're lucky to be in Tucson, where a short drive up Mt Lemmon can really help change your perspective. And while you're there, check out Rose Canyon Lake, which is a perfect place for trout fishing, camping, or just taking in the beauty.
We're here at Rose Canyon Lake, which is located at about 6,900 foot elevation. Rose Canyon Lake is part of the Santa Catalina Ranger District, and our district is one of 5 districts that make up the Coronado National Forest. Rose Canyon Lake is particularly popular due to it being the only lake on our district. Folks know that water is special in the desert and they want to come up and experience that. And so it's very popular for people that like to fish. But we also have a 73 site campground located just up the hill from the lake. People love to camp here. They love to hike around the lake. This is one of our lowest elevation sites that has a lot of tree cover, so it's a nice escape from the heat.
It's just a really nice lake to get out of the heat, come up for the day. Lots of squirrels, lots of frog, fish, birds. We generally just bring our lunch up with us and do a little picnic. And it's just a nice way to come up and see all the animals and cool off in the heat of the summer.
My name is Neil Dutt. I am the district biologist for the Santa Catalina Ranger District here in the Coronado National Forest. It is a man-made lake that does kind of introduce a different sort of ecosystem that would normally be here. It's a permanent source of water, which isn't something that's guaranteed in a lot of places in Arizona. So the wildlife come to depend on this as a valuable water source for the hotter months. Some species that you can expect to see here, possibly at least, we've got black bear, mountain lions, white-tailed deer. Those are the big mammals that people like to see. They'll come down here typically in the evenings, early mornings, or at night when there's fewer people around to drink from the lake. Arizona Game and Fish stocks this lake on an almost monthly basis. It kind of not as often in the summertime. So unfortunately, as the lake warms, it's not as good of habitat for trout. They like very cold water. So the trout in the summertime are likely going to go very deep in this lake and just kind of hunker down. Some of the non-native species that we do have here, unfortunately, we do have a pretty large population of bullfrogs. They are non-native invasive species here in Arizona. There are likely some crawfish in the lake as well, though their numbers have been down recently. We haven't seen many of them. We do have cattails in this lake that aren't native to this area. They're likely brought in by migrating waterfowl, something like that. We don't do anything to try to control them because they can only exist in so many areas, and they are good habitat for a a lot of the species that are in this lake as well.
Water's extra special here in the desert. I love to come out here on weekdays if I can because the crowds aren't as big. It's a really special place, and to me, if you can find it in a moment of solitude, it makes it extra special. There's a nice path on the north side of the lake that is accessible and goes out to a popular dock that can also be accessible by wheelchair. So it's great for everyone.
I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, so I came up here when I was younger with my parents to recreate, go fishing, go camping. It's really kind of special to me to be able to manage this lake as much as we can.
It's just a beautiful lake and a beautiful experience and a nice, easy drive from Tucson to just come up, cool off, and enjoy. It allows me to come up and reset and enjoy the water and the sound of nature. So it is a big deal.
Jim Waid is a Tucson artist whose works hang in major museums like New York's Museum of Modern Art. He's celebrating a 40-year career. Now, his paintings are visceral, though filled with life and bursting with energy and light. Jim says his paintings are enactments of the world around him.
Being a gardener, your hands and your knees, you're digging in the earth, that sort of thing. So you start thinking about what's growing under the earth and the process of making that. So a lot of times I think those first steps in the painting, those are the seeds planted, and then the piece grows to whatever its size it's supposed to be or image it's supposed to be. What I'm trying to do is create light-filled spaces with energy in them. I was born in Oklahoma, the youngest of 3 boys, and both my parents were teachers. And from the time I can remember, I had a pencil in my hand and was drawing.
I've known Jim Waid actually since the 1980s. While I didn't know him personally, I knew about his work and I followed his paintings. He is never afraid to experiment and to change and grow and take those risks. Any big show that focused on the Southwest, he was in it. He was considered one of the top 10 and remains so today.
Where is that one brush, that clumsy old brush I use?
He wakes up and the first thing he does is wants to go out to the studio. He works, morning, afternoon, night, and his approach to it too, always, he loves art. It's inspiring.
I've been familiar with Jim Waid's art for over 40 years. It's hard to be in Tucson and not be familiar with his work. I would go to auctions at places like Dinnerware Gallery and Tucson Museum of Art, and he was always generous in donating a piece to whatever fundraiser, and that's when I first became familiar with his work.
He has his own completely unique style and approach to color. And of course, he's in the Metropolitan Museum and other pretty major museums.
I had a cousin who was taking art classes, and so he taught me, gave me some lessons when I was in grade school, but it was sort of like how to draw Porky Pig and those kinds of things. When I was 11, we moved to Carlsbad, New Mexico, and then I went up to Albuquerque to go to a much larger school to study painting. By this time, that's what I wanted to do. Graduated there in 1965 and moved to New York and was there for 3 years and working at a job and also painting when I could on the weekends and nights and that kind of thing. I think I learned as much about art there as I did anywhere.
My father's paintings make me feel closer to nature, because even though they're not exact representations, he's using how nature's put together constantly. They make me feel like life, the joy of life. Growing up, we would go to openings and see other things. As kids, you're not usually as interested in it, but it grows on you after a while. He liked me being interested, especially since when I started doing it, I enjoyed it so much. So he saw that and said, encourage that. When I have the blank canvas, I usually use a big brush and thin down paint with thinner and just get something going on all of it and movement. And generally, sometimes I have an idea I want to explore. Other times it's just the images that start coming up suggest something, and then I bring that out. A lot of times I'm trying something and then destroying it and trying something else and destroying, it's always creation. Right now I'm exploring just similar concepts, space, light, pattern, growth. It's a beautiful world. Show that and enjoy that as opposed to the negative thing.
White, 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 white. I need white. So I'm teaching at Pima College, and we really didn't have a room that was conducive to drawing in. So I started taking students out in the desert right there, and I'm realizing whoa, this stuff is incredible. And that's what sort of got me started with some of the imagery I've been using, since then. And so it's very much Sonoran Desert inspired at first. That it turns into an overall interest in nature and processes. And then how can I adapt some of the ideas about processes? Is there any way to make a painting that sort of echoes that or deals with the same kinds of issues? Trying to create a work of art that seems to have a sense of real life to it.
Ultimately, what you end up seeing is the same from the very beginning of his work, which is the essence of nature, the vibrancy, the sense of crackling of movement and growth. And I love that about him. It's not just a replication of nature or a picture of nature, it's more of the experience of nature. I just find it exuberant and colorful and exciting.
I'm interested in forms that just hover right on the edge of recognition, so the mind can read them in different ways. I usually start on the paintings with a colored ground. I will use another color on top of it, usually darker, frequently black, and lay it all across it, and then scrape away while it's still wet. It's sort of like a reverse drawing, or maybe you might even call it a glorified scratchboard art. Then when I get that layered, it's sort of like a structure, the bones of the piece, or the black, say, overlaying the other underground. Then I start changing those black colors into other colors usually, unless it ends up being a black painting, which occasionally happens. And I'm always trying to surprise myself and learn new things. I feel like every day I go out there to the studio, and I go almost every day, is I'm trying to learn how to paint. I do not understand the process. I don't question it. That's the way I'm driven. That's the way I'm made.
Dragonflies have been around for, about 300 million years now. In fact, one of the first insects to inhabit the planet. And they're extraordinary. They're known for their hunting ability, their reproductive cycle, even their lifespan. This next story tags us along with expert Jeff Babson on Dragonfly Day at Mission Gardens.
You're at a pond or a river and you see all kinds of dragonflies, and I wanted to identify what I was looking at. And then as I got more into it, realized how spectacular these insects are. I might try to catch some of these guys, and if nothing else, it'll be good humor for you all.
I think you got him. Yep, you got him.
So here's your blue darner. Big eyes, green, blue and black abdomen, fantastic bug. So common green darner, its scientific name is Anax junius, which means king of June, which is a pretty cool name. In the last decade or so, people have been able to put little devices on them and track them. And these things migrate, folks. At least some of their populations do. They've been documented going from like Cape May, New Jersey to Florida. And then the batteries die. Today is our 5th annual Dragonfly Day along the Santa Cruz River. I'm here at Mission Gardens. See a lot more. As every year goes by, the river gets better as far as habitat goes. Michael Bogan, who from the University of Arizona, who's actually doing trips up in Miranda today, he was there when they started to release the water. And something like within an hour, there was 9 species of dragonflies and damselflies flying around. So they're very good at finding the water. And the reason that we're having a Dragonfly Day is because of the water. You have no water, you're not going to have any dragonflies because the babies live in the water. And they do this remarkable thing where they start off life as these little animals that usually are in the sediment. They could be crawling around amongst the vegetation. Their exoskeleton gets tight as they grow, so they have to shed it. They shed, they get bigger, and then they get big enough to come out of the water. Melissa has a table over there that's got some of the larvae. We're going to focus more on the adults that are flying around. Dragonflies are ancient. They've been around for about 300 million years, if not longer than that. They have not changed much in that time, so that was clearly a winning design. There are about 6,300 species of dragonfly and damselfly around the world.
There you go. Come on up, but you're going to get a lot of the weeds. So
They're predators throughout their lives. They can be found at almost every type of freshwater body. They can beat all 4 wings independently of each other. Whereas if you see a butterfly fly around, the wings on each side are basically one unit, so it's almost like one wing. These things don't do that. There's an orange skimmer, or a flame skimmer over here. I call him the flying carrot, because he's kind of that carrot orange. Just appreciate these phenomenal animals for what they are. They've been around a really long time, and they do things that are just kind of mind-blowing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for joining us and Trooper from Heart of the Horse Ranch here on Tucson's East Side. I'm Tom McNamara. We'll see you next week for another all-new episode of Arizona Illustrated.